Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Does someone want to lead the discussion?
I didn't print out the questions. I'm going to keep flipping back and forth, but I've got them. I can read them off and do the thing.
That's what I did last time. It's just flip back and forth.
So for the evaluating research article, we're supposed to answer the questions. What do you think it means that all people are entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts? I just put down that facts are facts, and you can't make them up in order to fit into your opinion. I mean, that doesn't make much sense, but anyway.
Yeah, well, they're unchanging. They're not going to change.
Yeah.
Despite your opinions.
Facts are something that you can have proof of its truth. And like you said, Kelly, it doesn't change.
It's always funny to listen to people's opinions and how people have their different opinions compared to one topic. A topic could be, well, cars, and one person's like, no, this car's the best car, and now someone says this car is the best car, and it's their own opinions until, like Vincent said, the truth is there, and the fact, the strong building block of it is what's going to make it important.
You can, well, I was going to say also, you can use the scientific method to prove something is truth, that it's fact. And there's evidence that can back up a fact. An opinion, you wouldn't necessarily have any evidence. It would just be something you believe, that you feel. It's more emotion. It's not logic or truth.
Yeah, good point, because if it was fact, and you're saying your opinion, but then it's fact, then you can have it backed up by it, so then that makes it fact, compared to if you don't know about it as much and your opinion is, I like cats, or whatever, I don't know, just oddball thing, and then it is your own opinion when you can't back anything up with it, so that's a good point, the backup part.
I correlated it with the scriptures. Like, we have the fact that it is literally the scriptures, it's right in front of us, but it's open to interpretation, and therefore it's kind of like the opinions. That's kind of how I correlated it.
That's a good point, because if I read one of the scriptures, then it's going to be I'm going to have a totally different opinion of it depending on my aspect of life at that time, compared to someone else has a different opinion because of their circumstance. But the fact is, it's scripture. So.
Yeah.
All right. So our next question is, why can statements that begin with "I've heard" or "you know," they say, be so dangerous when articulating your point?
Well, with "I've heard," well, where did you hear it? It can go. Then the whole point is focus on, okay, where did you heard it? How do you know that? Or where did you get that? So that "I've heard" is kind of, I'll say the word sketchy, or not as bold, or something like that. Where, well, I've heard it from my uncle's cousin, brother's niece. Well, who cares who's that, type of thing.
I had a friend who hated politics, and that she was super, super into politics, and she always hated it when people were like, well, I just heard so-and-so say it, and that's why I'm going to vote for this person. And she was always like, you have to go and do your research. You have to go and search and find out, because how people explain it to you might not actually be the way it is stated. And so I kind of see it as that. Are you guys getting feedback from mine, or is that somebody else's? Are you hearing the chatter?
I hear it. I was wondering if it was mine, so I muted it, but
yeah,
I still hear it.
I'll mute mine too.
I heard that. Well, I was just going to say that it's like you were saying, Craig. It's sketchy to take someone else's opinion or to listen to gossip. It's kind of like playing the game of telephone, because there may be a bit of truth in something, but then it's told to one person and another person, then it becomes this huge, crazy story that doesn't even have a kernel of truth left in it anymore. So you have to be really careful and make sure that what you're hearing is coming from the source and not just from all kinds of other people telling the story.
Good point.
Yep. Anybody else have anything to add on that one? Okay, so the next question is, so far we have learned the importance of having the doctrine in our hearts. Why do you think it is also important to have good science in our minds and mouths? I think there's a lot of people that don't want to have anything to do with listening to religion or doctrine in the world now. All they want to know is facts and science, and that's what they'll actually listen to.
I agree with that. It's kind of like if you fill yourself with all of this knowledge, this insight, and this understanding of everything, then you can also have it come out of you when you're talking to other people. And I think it's really, really important that you do fill yourself with all of this knowledge, and then that way, when somebody asks you a question, you can answer the right way.
I know for me, I feel like I have a lot more confidence when I have scientific fact to back me up. And if you're going to make an argument with someone, if you're going to have a discussion, it's a good idea to have like actual scientific proof and not just your emotion in a discussion, because you're going to get shot down really fast if you don't have anything besides just your own emotion.
Yeah, it's important to have those backup facts or the other ideas, because that way you can decipher is this really a good research project, or are the science really truthful on this, where you can back yourself up with, oh, I believe this because I believe this guy did this good research, this is why it's good, and so just not having the doctrine in our hearts where we can have that truth in us when we feel it, because we can feel it because of the Holy Ghost, and then able to have it in our minds when we need to discuss it, and just feel good about how this is the best knowledge I've got, and so this is what I can say.
Just going along with that, like with what Jen said, you know, like having those facts to back it up. When I watched that video last night of those kids from Africa who were talking about how they lost their parents, and then stating all the facts about like the AIDS virus and how prevalent it was in their country and how it was spread, like with those facts and those things that they shared, like that was the most powerful and the most effective statements that I've ever heard, you know. And I just thought, like, man, you know, I feel like us here in America, like we can say, you know, all day and all night, you know, we should refrain from sex before marriage, and that we should, you know, keep these morals. And, you know, I think some people might laugh at us or think that we're prudes, but the way that they explained it and the way that they described it to like the UN and in those meetings, I just felt like, wow, like they had some seriously valid points, and they were so effective and so powerful with the way that they shared it, and they shared it with fact, you know, and with their emotions, but, you know, they had concrete evidence that, you know, made their points come across so effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. I'm just typing down you guys' stuff so that we can summarize it at the end. So the next one is, if you were to pick a side on the Common Core debate strictly based on the information from evaluating research, Which would you pick and why?
I'm still not sure yet.
Yeah, me neither. I still don't know enough about it.
No.
That was me too.
That video is very one-sided, but I felt like after watching it, I was against it, but I still don't know enough about it, I guess.
Having had my kids bring home some of the stuff and seeing some of the things that they've tried to teach them, it's, how do you put it? It was like a politician trying to explain a math problem on some of the things, and it was really hard to understand. My kids were so frustrated, so I had to sit down and explain to them, this is really what they're asking. And then they were like, why didn't they just ask us to add the two numbers? You know, or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact problem. But I know it's also trying to teach them how to do more word problem type stuff. So it's kind of one of those where I don't know enough information about it yet, even as a parent, because I tried researching it, and so did my husband, looking it up, and we still couldn't really find anything to really explain it to us. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it really is making everyone college ready, but then dumbing it down. You know, I tried to make that list of, you know, the pros and the cons, and I mean, I still don't know. You know, because I know that there was a lot of points saying that, you know, kids are different. You grow up in different areas. You grow up in cities. You grow up on farms, and some people never want to go to college. And you know, I guess it would be horrible if it makes everyone college ready. But if college ready is no longer, you know, ready at the benchmarks that kids are ready now, then maybe it's not such a great idea. But I mean, if they're ready at higher levels and everyone's, you know, doing much better, then I don't know.
Well, I do have an opinion on this, and the opinion that I have is because it's new, there hasn't really been the opportunity yet to do a study and see if kids are doing better because of this new program. It's going to take time to look at what happened in the past and what's happening now with kids and see if this was a better program. So you can't really like have a whole lot of proof yet because it's, like I said, it's so new. And just going back to saying that it is my opinion, and I don't really, you know, I'm not able to really back this up necessarily with fact, but with my own kids, you know, they're all teenagers, and I feel like, why in the world are you making teenagers write an essay in math class? They would come home with ridiculous homework, in my opinion. It was a lot of extra work, and why try to fix a program that's not broken? They were doing just fine, and they brought this new thing in, and I saw a lot more extra busy work, and it seemed like it was just adding more problems, more stress to their already busy workload of homework. So yeah, I think maybe in 10 years, you know, they can do a study, take the kids that never had Common Core, and take the kids that have had it, see the difference. But at this point, I don't think that you can you can't really know for sure the answer if this is working or not, except for just anecdotal like me saying I don't like it. So
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe they should have started, maybe this is my opinions, I don't know if it is or how it is because I haven't researched enough, but why don't they start with the kindergarten and then not worry about the kids already in school and then start it on that level where you introduce something new, then the kids are like, no, this is crazy and this is too much, and like Jen was saying, of all the homework they have and more homework, and
Yeah.
I don't know about all the homework type of situations because kids need to be kids and not have so much crazy homework that they're dependent on staying home the whole time and constantly doing work or schoolwork at school for 6 hours, and then coming home and have to do more for 4 hours. That's more than most adults do for a job. And when they get home, some adults probably just chill out and relax and not have to worry about work anymore. But these kids go to their work and then come home and have to do more work.
And then, then a lot of them just give up and say, well, I'm just not going to go to college, or I'm just going to drop out, or
I'm not good at this. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, like you said, not every kid is in that mold. Some people would have done better going to a trade school or something technical. And, I mean, what if, they do test this in 10 years and realize it was a big waste of time? What did we do with those kids in that whole 10 years that they could have avoided that stress and that? I don't know.
And then I guess we can go on the other side of maybe it is beneficial, but we don't know yet, and maybe it was successful, but maybe it's only successful for 50% because maybe they, I don't know, don't go to college because they have something else that comes up and they just maybe kind of hit a jackpot with a job situation and they don't need it. I don't know.
Yeah, but did we have to do it in all 48 states and pass it all right away? Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
What I don't like is that when they started it, it was all very, very secretive and nobody knew about it until they basically already put it.
They passed it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this passed.
Yeah. And we homeschool, and so I hear a lot of negative things about Common Core, especially from parents who pull their kids out. We have one family who has a lot of dyslexic kids, and she can't work with the system because you have to explain all of your answers, and dyslexics, they can't do that. I have a daughter who is dyslexic, and she was going to go into kindergarten, and how they do kindergarten, she wouldn't have thrived. She would have hated school if we had to put her in that environment. And so, I don't know. I don't like Common Core. I think that there are different ways of peeling a potato, so that's my opinion.
I think sometimes they forget that every kid is different. Everybody learns different. Everybody does it at a different pace. And what one person understands is totally Greek to another. And I know that my husband, he hated school, hated it with a passion, yet he's very smart. And I have a couple kids that get bored in school and they get in trouble. And then they're labeled the troublemakers, and then they're kind of kept back, and it's like, no, don't do that, they're bored.
Yeah.
They need more, but they can't do it because this is the structure and this is how it is, and everybody has to be at the same pace, at the common grounds, and the same things, and so it makes it hard for those that are struggling and for those that understand it already. I think there needs to be more flexibility for teachers to be able to help the kids and not have to be, it totally has to be an exact thing here, and if you're not meeting that, then it's not okay type thing, because every kid learns differently and at a different pace.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what made me even want to take this class was, the child advocacy part of it, because I think you have to speak up for your kids, and I mean, I want to learn how to do that better because my 6-year-old has Asperger's, and he struggles with that because he doesn't know how to speak up for himself the proper way, but he's very smart, yet he struggles with, he struggles with trying to, he can do things, he can spell, he can do math, but he can't write it. He has dysgraphia, so he can't write his spelling words down, but he can't pass those tests, he can't meet those standards, so we have to get accommodations for him. So now we have to create an IEP and do all those things because the teacher can't do that for him. She can't say that, okay, he can do this and he can meet these standards, but in his own way. That has to be done through the system. It has to be done very systematically. So then you have to, write that letter, and you have to get that in writing, and you have to do all those things step by step to meet that school standard and to make that happen their way, you know. And it's a shame when, like you said, kids are so different. And you know, your daughter with Robin, your daughter with dyslexia, and Stacy, your kids that, you know, don't like to, they get bored. I mean, every kid is so different. And if teachers could accommodate the kids individually, it would be so much easier, but they can't. They have to do it by the school standard and exactly how the school wants them to do it, even if the teacher is a great teacher and could accommodate them if they wanted to. It just doesn't work that way, and it's so hard.
Yeah. Now, I don't know much about it, but my wife was teaching with No Child Left Behind. Is that the same as Common Core?
No, they're different
They're
things.
different, but they're similar.
I mean, it's all about like making things standardized, and so like the tests, you know, are to make sure that everyone is at the same level. The No Child Behind is so that everyone is at the same level. It's kind of like if you think about kids all marching in a line. That's kind of the visual that I have, that they're trying to have all the kids exactly the same, and which is just not going to work. I mean, I know with my kids, they're kind of like. Someone was sharing that it's boring sometimes. My kids also will get bored at school because they would like to do things a little bit more creative, but maybe the teachers don't have free time to do the creative projects because they're so busy working towards the standardized tests or the the Common Core, because they're trying to get everyone all in line, right? It used to be in the past I would see projects where, okay, we're going to make a poster board of what you're envisioning for your future, and then you go and you cut out things in a magazine. It was very creative. You would see these type of projects more often. But now the teachers don't have that kind of free time to do that as much, or like to do maybe the music or art, things like that. So that's an issue, I think. And then kids get burned out because they're not having a break. They're not doing anything creative or fun, and they need it. It's important.
Yeah. And I agree, because I can see with my own kids, I have a second grader who I thought was fairly smart, and then by kindergartner, she's already reading chapter books, and then she comes to words, I can, is her, words that she needs to know to read. And I'm like, she's already known these words since she was 3. And now it was like, but all the other children are maybe not on that level, and I don't want to sound like I'm boasting with it, but it's just No Child Left Behind is going to make what's been said, someone's kids bored and then act out because, like, hey, no one's paying attention to me, while everyone's paying attention to the kids that need that attention, and so they're going to get attention, and it's going to be the negative effect on it. So it's just to make everyone even and equal is at the same time is probably not the best thing, because everyone learns at different levels and everyone has different abilities and strengths that is better than someone else's, and then they have weaknesses that are someone else's strengths, and it's just to put them all together would be kind of drone, I guess, and just mono.
And I think that's why it's so important to have AP classes, the advanced placement classes, the cluster classes. You need to have all these different options, because every kid needs to find the right type of class for their learning style and who they are. And to get rid of those would be ridiculous.
I agree. That's why I'm so sad, like music and a lot of those specialty classes has been taken out. Art, music, a lot of those programs are gone in our district. And it makes me sad.
I have to go get my charger so my computer doesn't die. I'll be back 1 second.
My husband just brought me mine.
I mean, at least in my daughter's school, their elementary school, what would happen is the parents could come in and teach art. So there was an art teacher who would teach the parents the art lesson, and then us parents would go into the classroom and teach the art lesson to the kids. So they've been finding ways to make sure that the kids get these programs. There was also something called the VAPA program, so that the kids were able to have drama classes. And it was because a couple teachers decided to find out about a grant, a VAPA grant, that paid for drama teachers to come in. So there's ways to have these things happen, and a lot of times it's the parents needing to do the research to find out about the grants, or there needs to be teachers that find out about these things out there and make sure that it happens in the schools. That's a tangent, sorry.
I like that tangent.
I was involved in PTA and all kinds of things with my kids, so I was just really, like, I felt like I lived in the school when my kids were younger, and I really felt like it was important to know what was going on, so I would hear a lot of different things from teachers and things. Anyway.
See, and I think that's important too, because, yeah, I don't know. I want to be part of PTA. I'm not sure. It's probably a good thing to do, but to be involved in a child's school is very beneficial.
It is, yeah, and sometimes it can be a little tough, especially if you have a bunch of kids. So I have 3 kids, and it's really nice when teachers will let you bring in the younger siblings. And so I don't know if rules have changed or if, you know, they still let people bring in the younger siblings, but that's what I would do. I would bring them on field trips or into the classroom and just bring coloring books to keep them quiet while I was helping the older one. So.
Huh.
Where are you at, Jen?
San Diego.
San Diego. Okay. Because I was going to say, like, I haven't heard of any of those opportunities out here in Arizona. And, like, I tried helping out because my oldest went to kindergarten and everything. And I tried finding stuff to be able to participate in, but I couldn't because I had little kids. I couldn't go on field trips. I basically couldn't do anything unless I had a babysitter, and it was so frustrating.
That's how it is for me too, but I find moms to trade with sometimes, but that doesn't always work.
Okay, so more on Common Core. Do you think that much of the Common Core curriculum ignores empirically based, developmentally appropriate practices for children? Why or why not? I think we've kind of talked about that one already, a little bit.
Yeah,
But
I don't know yet, really, I guess.
I think it kind of goes back to what Jen said about you can't test it yet. It hasn't been around long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was what I got out of it. So.
Yeah.
Then, what have you learned from cultural imperialism about the persuasive function of research and science in creating cultural change? That was quite the video. I put down that if research and science is done correctly, it can make positive changes. But if people manipulate the results, or if they choose to only use the results that benefit their agenda, then it can really hurt people.
Yeah, especially if they use their power in trying to make it, because with what they're saying about the AIDS epidemic and how the U.S. government won't fund them until they accept this as law, the LGBT circumstance, and they don't want to. It's just a power struggle, and if you have the power, then some people just have to face the difficult challenge of that.
I loved that video. I actually posted it on Facebook. But I didn't like how they sorry, my feedback is awful. But I didn't like how they basically, like Craig said, how they kind of forced them into it. They kind of went in with a single thought, and they were not going to be persuaded. And just with the ideas that they came up with to counteract what they had proof of, to me was ridiculous. So I don't know. I liked how they stood strong and are still fighting to make their own laws, basically, and to not be bullied into thinking the way we think, because it is a culture thing. So those are my thoughts on the video.
I was thinking about how just churches, it's very common now to see these lawsuits where a church says, I'm not going to marry a gay couple, and they say, okay, well, then we're going to sue you. Or what I see coming along down the line is churches losing their nonprofit status, which, is definitely a penalty on the church. And I'm sure, give it a couple years, it'll probably happen to our church. If, we don't give in, which we won't, we'll probably lose our nonprofit status. So yeah, there's a lot of bullying going on. And I think it's just probably going to get worse.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen, or have you guys taken Family 300? Any of you guys?
Mm-mm. Which one is that one?
It's the marriage one.
Yes.
Yeah, because right now I'm taking that class as well, and we're talking about gays this last week, and the form that they followed on how to get where they are is really scary, and just the fact that now they're really out to vilify all of the people who oppose them, and they're basically not going to stop until the people who oppose same-sex marriage are deemed as like vile citizens that no one wants to associate with. And like Jen said, I think it really is just worse.
And it's interesting now because I guess they could say that we were being the bullies and not accepting that. Now they're being the bullies, as in returning it as like, you guys are evil, and now we're taking it to you. Where more of it, I guess, it's just the faith-building thing is, like Jen said, the church isn't going to accept it, and the church isn't going to say, okay, you can marry gay people now. And maybe if it gets that far, the people have to get married civilly and then go get married in the temple or whatever it needs to be, or sealed in the temple. And just how they mentioned that it's a 20-year mark of the Family Proclamation, and I've been around for almost 8 years of it. Well, wait, hold on. I was alive when I was 8, so it was after I was baptized type of thing. And 20 years later, how much have changed, and how prophetic the prophet is at that time, 20 years ago, and how 20 years, like what changed, so another 20 years, what's going to change then? So, could be the family advocate for sure.
That's interesting that you say that. I never thought that, that maybe people will have to get married civilly and then go to the temple to get sealed because of all the changes. I hadn't thought about that.
The ward that I just moved from was a military ward, and there were a lot of people that had served over in Germany and different countries, and it's the law over there. They must be married civilly before they can go to the temple. That's the different laws in Europe. And they were talking about that in our ward when they read the letter, to all the leaders and adults, and saying that that's probably what's going to happen here, is that if people are still being sued for not marrying, lesbians or gays, that they're going to have to say, okay, we no longer marry people, and you have to go get civilly married, and then you go to the temple within a week. It's like 7 days over in Europe is what you have to go to the temple. And then if you don't, then you wait a year.
That's funny that you bring that up, Stacy, because my mom, she's from England, but she moved here when she was 19 or 20 and got married here. But I was talking to her about the same thing, and she says, yes, that's how it is. You get married civilly, and then you go to the temple. So that wasn't a surprise to her, but I think I knew it, but just yeah, exactly.
All right. One more question, I guess. What lessons have you learned to make you more skillful in combating your chosen topic or threat? I think more than anything this week, watching all these things has just made me realize how much I need to be prepared, how much I really need to learn about everything, and then to not be afraid to stand up. So.
That's true. And I watched the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Studio C style, and it just goes to show no matter how what kind of friends you have and their stance on something that you may not believe, and they believe, no, you believe it, you gotta believe it, and everyone else is backing them up, and then it's just so scared to kind of be the minority of no, this is right, I know this is right, and everyone else is telling you, no, it's wrong, and then finally you give in and you go to it, kind of like I kind of take it to maybe the tree of life, how people are going to it, then people are made fun of, and so they go away from it, the truth, and it's just standing up for it, but continuing no matter how difficult it gets.
I think that even in the church, there's quite a few people that have a really hard time because they feel like, what's wrong with gay marriage? I mean, it's not hurting me. It's like they're in love. They want to do their own thing. You know, why should we get involved? I hear that often from church members, and I think it's tough because some people will say, well, eventually down the road, people are going to look at gay marriage the same way as, you know, the blacks couldn't have the priesthood a while back, and then the church says, okay, well, now the blacks can have the priesthood. That the gays will be able to get married because, you know, times have changed. And so I've heard that argument several times. It's hard for me to imagine that the Lord would change his standards, because if you look at the proclamation, it doesn't look like there's any wiggle room to say that it's going to be okay. So I don't see them being comparable, the two topics.
That's a very good point to bring up on that too, and you brought up a good point, because my wife and I talked about this, how it was one of our readings, how or video, don't remember, but people say, why is it's not going to affect me? And maybe it won't affect you, but like one of my wife's good friends, it affects her because she was married, and then her husband decided that he liked other men, but they had a child together, and now it's affecting them because what is she supposed to do? Where her dad's in the gay lifestyle, and she's still in the church, and she's telling her son, no, this isn't, or the church telling him this isn't right. So it will affect someone down the line, and so the people that may say that they'll see it down the line, maybe with their children, unfortunately, or a good friend, where they'll see that it will affect them, and it will affect the child, because what's the child supposed to do? Follow the dad or follow mom? But he's my dad and she's my mom, so what do I do? So that's where I can see it may not affect them right now, but maybe in the future they'll see where it affects them.
I love all the comments you guys have been sharing on this. I love what you said, Jen. It's scary, and it reminds me of trying to think. I don't remember where I heard this from, but basically, like in the last days, that every Christian will have to suffer, and maybe this is, I don't know, our chance to actually stand up and really defend what we believe, because like you said, there's no wiggle room in the proclamation. It is a powerful tool, and honestly, when it first came out, there was no issue. Like, we always assumed that men would marry women and women would marry men, and now all of a sudden it's like uncommon almost, and it's kind of scary. It's not going to happen overnight with all of the family changes. It's going to happen slowly by slowly. It's scary.
Anybody have anything else? So I kind of lost track on the last 4 questions. I stopped typing, but I can summarize really quickly the first few. For the people being entitled to their own opinions, but not their own facts. Facts are truth. They're unchanging. They're the building blocks. Scientific method and evidence backs up facts. And our opinions or feelings, they're not logic, and they can't help us to back things up. And then question of why statements like I've heard and you know they say can be so dangerous to us articulating our point is that we can't rely on others' words or opinions. It's sketchy to take someone else's opinion. There may be a bit of truth, and as it goes through people, it becomes a crazy story that has no truth in it whatsoever. And so we need to make sure that things come from the source. And then I think that's the last one I typed up, but importance of having the doctrine in our hearts and our so that and good science in our minds and mouths is so that we have the ability to stand up and to talk about things and be able to back up the things that we say and be convincing to those around us. It makes more of a valid point. Add anything in, guys, if I forgot something, okay? And if we were to pick a side on the Common Core debate, some of us like it, some of us don't, and we pretty much came to the conclusion it hasn't been around long enough to do any studies on, and so we don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on kids, and that all kids learn differently at different rates, and it needs to be flexible. And then we talked about the Common Core curriculum ignoring empirically based, developmentally appropriate practices. We talked about that they didn't really give anybody information. Nobody really knew about it till it was in. And because they haven't had it around long enough, they haven't been able to give facts on it yet. There's no empirical information there to go off of yet. And then the cultural imperialism about being persuasive and creating cultural change. Talked about how the one video was very persuasive because they had the facts, and that it seems like they're being bullies, like the U.S. is being bullies to other countries who don't believe the same things. They're trying to get them to do that stuff. Was there anything else on that one? I keep thinking we talked about something else, and I don't remember it. Did that sound good for that one? Okay. And then, what lessons have we learned to be more skillful in combating our chosen topic? Mainly that we just need to know as much as we can and to stand up. Anything else on that one?
I think that's good, and just stand up no matter how long it takes to stand up for it. Just don't give in, even though peer pressure might get you.
Sounds great, guys. Hey, thanks, Greg, for doing that again. Do you want to be the weekly inviter since none of the rest of us seem to be able to do it?
Sure, I can do that. That's no problem.
Okay.
Cool. I'll stop the broadcast.